On the 27th of November 2025, the High Court in Machakos struck down parts of the Seeds and Plant Varieties Amendment Act of 2012, ending more than a decade of criminalizing practices such as planting seed varieties not approved for planting and exchanging seeds with other farmers, an age-old practice that was made illegal. So if there was significant flaws in the law, who was benefiting from it? How was the act crafted? And whose interests did it serve? Who did it leave out? Which are the government agencies tasked to enforce it, and the corporate networks that turned plant matter into intellectual property? 2025 Birthday Challenge Fellow and African-censored reporter Cynthia Gishiri investigates the seed syndicate, seeking to get to the bottom of these questions. Through testimonies, records and field reporting, she reveals how the law reshaped rural life, shrinking agricultural biodiversity, weakening smallholder resilience, and tightening dependency on commercial seed giants in a changing climate. Well, this is a story about seeds, power, and the fight to reclaim both. Well, we leave you with that special report, which will be airing now. But this is where we wrap up NTV Tonight. Thank you for your valued company. My name is Zainab Ismail. Our sign language interpreter this evening has been David Agondoa. And warm wishes and stay safe. Good night.
This story is about seeds.
Seed means life. Seed means livelihood. Seed means our culture.
When a young girl is getting married, they give them seeds to signify the continuation of the lineage. So it's rooted in culture.
But it's different from what's been told before. This is an investigation.
If you hear me saying that I'm going to eat jahe somewhere, there's a child who has been born somewhere.
A report by Greenpeace International says 80% of Kenya's agriculture is supported by the informal seed sector.
Lakini mimi mkulima niko na hizo zote na serikali imenifunga mikono.
But this is rapidly changing thanks to a law that was quietly and hastily passed by the 10th Parliament, prioritizing profits over seed sovereignty.
That's why you have hybrids, that's why you have all these new genetically modified things that are coming in.
You have to borrow a loan so that you can plant maize because it's very expensive because of inputs.
In this story, we investigate Kenya's controversial seed law, uncovering the powerful interests behind it and the hidden motives driving its enforcement.
From the 9th Parliament, they started showing signs that they were interested in the seeds.
So when it was revised in 2012, it included certain punitive aspects to punish anybody who is found trading seed and is not registered as a seed merchant.
We expose how corporate interests have reshaped the seed industry through legislative means at the expense of small-scale farmers. In light of now what these reports are saying, do you have any regrets?
Yes, I do. What I knew then and what I know today is different. Yeah. The assumptions there is that we have a system of government that works.
My name is Cynthia Gishiri. For almost a year, I have traversed hundreds of kilometers from Machakos to the highlands of Mount Narok and the plains of Turkana. I've spoken to tens of farmers. I have been looking into the interconnectedness of corporate interests and political power in agriculture, and my focus is on seeds. A seed, so small yet so important. It's an apt metaphor for growth and continuity. It's no wonder that many religious texts use seeds as a powerful symbol of new beginnings and the tenacity and promise of life. But what happens when this natural resource is commodified and access is restricted because of commercial interests? This story begins at the High Court in Machakos.
We will be relying on our replying affidavit dated 23rd October 2024.
A group of small-scale farmers are keenly following the proceedings of a matter dear to them.
My lady, the petitioners before you are local farmers from various parts of the country, are against the provisions of the Seed and Plant Varieties Act.
This case has been before the courts since September 2022, when it was first filed.
And it's been a long, arduous journey. Just even to get a mention in court took us quite a while.
Farmers, flanked by civil society organizations such as Greenpeace International, Biodiversity and Biosafety Association Kenya, Seed Savers Network and the Law Society of Kenya, argue that these provisions curtail their right to seed sovereignty, increasing dependence on commercialized seeds.
I'm more concerned with the protections aspect of the act.
We submit that a sword hanging on a ceiling is no less dangerous because it has not fallen.
My Lord, for that we pray that you uphold the petitioner's case. Thank you.
Haki yetu, uhai wetu, haki yetu.
Na tuna imani kubwa hii kesi lazima tutashinda, kwa sababu hakuna mtu ana ruhusa ya kuimiliki mbegu, kwa sababu hata huyo mtu ni mbegu.
Journalism ulikata.
Sasa hiyo journalism hii msaida aso. Tika town tunangara tunatoa hizo magambo tunove tuko. But you see the advantage of this. You just this one is our one-time thing.
At Kabazi Ward in Nakuru County, Onesmus Njuguna is trying his hand at farming. It's early April 2025 and the planting season has already begun. Njuguna plans to plant maize and must race against time to ensure this least piece of land becomes productive.
This year, the rain came earlier with around 2 weeks. Because we received the first rain, early March. So it got us off guard, but it's not still late. Already around this season, we are already in April. It took time before I got this land, so the plowing could not be done because of the soil is already heavy. The best thing to do is just creating the trenches. We plant. Now after what we've done today, the next thing is the seeds. From here, I'm headed to Kenya Seeds. I will be doing 6213. It's one of the best breeds.
The Kenya Seed Company depot, located in Nakuru town about 30 kilometers from Njuguna's 10-acre farm, is the Central Rift region's main supplier of seed maize with multiple varieties on offer. Njuguna has tried to purchase seeds from this state company for days now.
I'm trying to get in touch with the guys in charge of seeds. I need to purchase mbegu za mahindi. So the guys in Teja, I needed to know whether I can get the amount I want for planting. Now that the land is ready, I really need 3 seeds. As early as yesterday.
Each acre requires 1 bag of seed at a cost of 2,500 Kenya shillings, about $20 per bag. It's a busy day at the depot, with workers loading and offloading hundreds of bags of seeds. Njuguna has to queue alongside hundreds of farmers, and it takes him 2 days to get the seeds.
Yes, there's a big difference between the prices between last year and this year. Reasons being, we had a shortage of seeds last year. And you see when there's that shortage, that tells you the guys who are selling the seeds, even from the agrovetes, they would tend to increase the price. This year is slightly affordable.
The planting day is finally here. Njuguna leaves his house in the outskirts of Nakuru town at the crack of dawn and heads to his farm in Kabazi, a 45-minute journey.
Mimi ni mwanahabari, na kabla nilikuwa mwanahabari nilikuwa mwalimu. In fact, time ya COVID ndio I think nilichukua mwelekeo mpya wa ku think outside the box. Because me, I don't have my own lands. All the pieces of land I'm doing or whatever, I'm leasing.
Locals trickle in looking for work.
Chozo kwa natia? Oleo kuo. Chozo ni mwega? Oh, the chozo wewe kaile tu. Na chozo kana tu. Oyo neto athoma nake oyo.
They come equipped with hose and containers, men and women, young and old.
Kitaka tuelewane wote pamoja, sawa sawa? Kwanza nataka kujua tuko watu wangapi, ni nani yako kazi, nani hayuko kazi, si ndio?
They are 63 in number, and after a short prayer, their coordinator Lucy Wanjiro portions out planting seed to each of them.
Nani wanaweka fertilizer? Mmejua nani wanaweka fertilizer?
Outcome, I'm expecting 30 bags per acre. 30 bags per acre. 30 bags is when you do the right management. This means after we plant, the seeds grow, you come do the necessary for controlling the worms, the cutworms and whatever.
Most of these laborers are also farmers, but at a much smaller scale than Njuguna. A few hours later, the work is done and it's time to collect their dues. As is the custom here, Lucy says another prayer, this time a thanksgiving for the work and their employer. They earn 300 shillings, about $2.30 each for a day's work.
Rodana siokeshi to koshiwale. Siko ili siatigara. Nini siatigara? Nikukutahira kidogo.
Lucy tries to negotiate for any leftover seeds and fertilizer after the planting exercise. While the planting is done for Njuguna, a bigger task awaits. We will come back to that later. For now, Lucy is relieved that she will be able to make the most of the planting season before it's too late.
Na tumjukuu niko nato 7, bado niko naye 7. Na wengine hata tulikuwa nao hapa, na waambia wakuje tuende pamoja ili tupate mbegu ya kupanda na tupate chakula. Niko na watoto shule, natafuta mbegu, na hii mbegu ni shida sana kwangu kuipata. Saa zingine hata napanda zenye ninakula.
Small-scale farmers living in this region depend on casual labor as a way to raise money to buy seeds, a trend that has grown over the years. Maize is a staple food in Kenya and is widely grown in the country. Kenyans consume an estimated 98 kg of maize every year on average. This year, the National Crop Variety Release Committee, which is convened by the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services KEFIS, approved a total of 421 seed maize varieties and 3 genetically modified varieties to the Kenyan market for planting. Both Njuguna and Lucy prefer the 6213, a certified hybrid variety owned and produced by the Kenya Seed Company since 2002 and listed on the 2025 National Crop Variety List. The 6213 is described as a high-yielding and drought-resistant variety, which takes about 6 to 8 months to mature.
Sasa nimepata 300. Na hii 300 haiwezi tosha deni. Sasa nilikuwa nategemea nipate 1,000 kwa sababu saa hii tunanunua 500 na 30 ama 50. Hiyo ni mbegu ya 6213. Pati ya kilo 2. Sasa hata nikipewa hiyo 300, yes jaza. Napanda 4.
While its qualities sound appealing, these and other hybrid maize varieties are a stark symbol of the commercialization of Kenya's seed sector over 3 decades ago, a cycle that has trapped both Njuguna and Lucy despite their different economic circumstances.
It's interesting that 80% of the seeds that we used we use in crop production in Kenya today are from the farmer-managed seed systems. Only about 20% is from certified seeds. And this 20% you can see it's from like maize seeds, wheat seeds, but 80% comes from the farmers.
So since the 80s, when you had the structural adjustment programs, you forced the government through the IMF and all these to withdraw their support for this unmentionable 80% base, and in fact allow and open your doors for some bit of commercial farming. And a few people are making a lot of money out of it. So in commercial farming, you concentrate wealth and capital in a few.
2 days later, we visit Lucy at her home at Kihoto village in Kabazi, about 10 kilometers from Njuguna's farm. She has lived in this rented home since 1991 after she fled tribal clashes in Molo.
Maisha hapa hii njiri. Sababu ukiwa na watoto hao wote itaweza aje kupanuka. Haya, hapa ni kwa wenyewe, si kwangu. Itaweza aje hata tuweka kabizi.
Lucy has a busy day ahead. After working at Njuguna's farm, she has enough money to buy seeds to plant on a leased plot of land a short distance from her home. However, she must first prepare breakfast for her family. It's a 20-minute walk from Lucy's home to an agrovet shop at Kabazi Shopping Center. The privately owned outlet supplies essential products such as seeds, fertilizer, animal feeds, and pesticides. She manages to buy 2 kg packets of seed maize, with each packet going for 550 shillings, about $4. This is not enough for her half-acre plot of land, however.
Miaka ya hapo mbele ilikuwa rahisi kwa sababu per packet haikuwa bei kali. Lakini sasa unakuta hata 800 kwa kilo mbili ama 1200. Nataka kupanda hapa. Hii shamba yote. Nimekondesa miaka sasa, hii ni mwaka wa 4. Na kukondesa hiyo shamba ni 10,000. Ni nusu. Hiyo ni nusu. Kilimo mimi nafanya kwa sababu ya chakula.
Although she has managed to buy seeds and plant them, Lucy has one more concern.
Fertilizer sina borea, kupanda napanda nyuma. Wakati mvua imeenda chini. Sasa siwezi nikapata mafuno.
Watching Njuguna and Lucy struggle to obtain seeds for the planting season makes me worry about my grandmother. She lives about an hour's drive from here. She is 86 years old and started subsistence farming full-time in the early 1990s after retiring from her teaching career. I catch up with Shosh, as we call her, just as she prepares to plant the Mexican black bean.
Tulinunua Nairobi na familia nyingine iko hapa. We are only 2 families that have this kind of bean.
Like Njuguna and Lucy, Grandma also plans to plant the 6213 maize variety, but as she waits to get the seed, she chooses to start with the Mexican black bean, which she saved from her own farm after the previous harvest.
By the way, mimi niliona kama nimechelewa sana kulima. Na nilikuwa nimechelewa. Mimi huwa kila wakati ninalima kabla ya mvua.
Agriculture, according to her, has become overly complicated, and she recalls when seed could easily be obtained from other farmers.
Siwezi kumbuka kama tulinunua mbegu kwa watu, kwa any shop, kama Carrefour vile tunanunua siku hizi. Walikuwa watu wana mbegu. Wengine walikuwa na maharagwe ile nyekundu, ile nyingine iko na madoadoa. Tuliendelea vizuri, hatukukosa chakula.
Wayatu.
In fact, growing up in this village in the 90s and the early 2000s, I watched my grandmother exchange and sometimes sell different seed varieties to our neighbors. Farmers would also replant selected seeds from previous harvests, but that practice seems to have stopped.
Where does it grow them?
Dr. Daniel Mainge is a leading agroecology advocate and a bioscience policy practitioner. He explains the changes that have occurred in the seed sector are a result of a concerted shift to more heavily regulated and commercialized farming.
So in commercial farming, you concentrate wealth and capital in a few. But in the other one, the wealth is already there, and it's what we sustains us all. That's why you have hybrids. That's why you have all these new genetically modified things that are coming in. Those are the new plant varieties.
The term new plant varieties features widely in the Seeds and Plant Varieties Amendment Act of 2012, infamously known by critics as the Seed Law. This law is the result of years of calculated efforts involving a complicated cast of characters: businesses, scientists, transnational bodies, philanthropic organizations, and agrochemical companies like Monsanto, Syngenta, BASF, and Bayer. So how and why did we get to the seed laws of 2012? What do these regulations mean for thousands of smallholder farmers who meet the bulk of Kenya's food needs? It all began in 1961 with the establishment of the International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants, UPOV, an intergovernmental body headquartered in Geneva. The UPOV Treaty provides a unique form of intellectual property protection for plants, and its stated goal is to encourage the development of new plant varieties for the benefit of society. While the Union has a lofty mission, it cannot be ignored that during this period, major European agrochemical companies began playing a key role in plant breeding and sought a system that would acknowledge and protect their inventions even after harvest.
Discovering new varieties in crops is also a misnomer, because those genes have existed from the very beginning. And so definitely that's where the mistake comes in.
The UPOV Convention was amended thrice. Its 1978 Act, among other things, limited the period of protection of plant breeder rights to not less than 15 years and 18 years for trees and vines. The Third Amendment, made in 1991, was more stringent. It neither acknowledged nor protected farmer varieties. It also increased the period of breeder rights protection to 20 years for crops and 25 years for trees and vines.
And so that is now where the acrimony is. That when farmers are planting the maize that they've grown for the last tens and tens of years, they find another type of maize, and they are supposed to treat that maize differently from their own.
So probably there's the use of chemical pesticides, there's the use of chemical fertilizers. So all this goes down to contamination of the soil, contamination of the water bodies, the underground water bodies. But the most important thing is that the farmer is a slave. They can no longer control what they grow.
In addition, the UPOV 91 Act introduced DUS criteria referring to distinct, uniform and stable characteristics of a plant variety after repeated propagation. While these characteristics form the basis of what is now sold to farmers as certified seeds, they are a major point of contention for the critics of the seed law.
Kuwekea watu sheria wakati wananunua mbegu si vizuri.
If an old grandmother from Mashinani wants to access these services, like the Kenya seeds. You remember when we went for seeds, you would see the guys who are lining up, the guys who are getting these seeds. You would imagine a shosho would not really access where these stores are. And again, if you'd access them from the agrovets, the prices are high.
So if we have laws that protect the plant breeders' rights, then it makes it difficult for farmers to get these seeds without having to pay for them.
It's never distinct. Otherwise, if it were distinct, a maize variety coming from company A or company B would not be looking like the other maize. So what makes it distinct when it's still the same maize, and you can clearly, even a child will tell it's maize. Then in terms of uniformity, yes, it might look uniform for a while, but that's because you're using the parent of your material. You're keeping it as a business secret. If you were to allow nature to do it, in fact, it would be making new varieties every single day, telling you that distinct, uniform, and stability is another business term, not scientific.
Kenya joined UPOV on May 13, 1999, acceding to the 1978 Act and became a party to the UPOV 91 Act more than a decade later in May 2016.
Naweka mbili.
By the time of its last amendment in 1991, UPOV's membership had been stagnant at 20. However, this number shot up to 43 in 1999, with 11 new countries joining, all of them from the developing world. A report titled UPOV on the Warpath, published by GRAIN, an international NGO that supports small-scale farmers in their fight for biodiversity-based food systems, attributes this growth to the establishment of the World Trade Organization in 1995 and its trade-related aspects for intellectual property rights TRIPS, which tightened UPOV's grip on the global seed sector. As of 2024, UPOV's membership stands at 80. According to this graph published on UPOV's official website, by 2022, Africa and the Near and Middle East led in the number of applications for plant breeder rights, reflecting the continent's integration into the global seed market. This surge can be attributed to the enforcement of trade agreements and the conditions they contain.
That's why you have hybrids. That's why you have all these new genetically modified things that are coming in. Those are the new plant varieties. And so because the World Bank has been pushing for that support and having this being protected through plant breeder protection, it makes it very hostile for smallholder farmers, the silent majority, to have any say. And I think they say he who pays the piper calls the tune.
With these two international laws in place, Kenya moved swiftly and quietly to pass a law that would disenfranchise small-scale farmers.
This petition challenges several provisions of the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, which has been called the SPVA, and the Seed and Plant Varieties Seed Regulations of 2016.
This story looks into the murky seed sector and the policies that led us to where we are now.
The whole nonsense, let me call it nonsense, you see from regulations down to the bills and then to the regulation, the threats and so forth, is all total, it's nonsense.
In the second part, we take a look at the Seeds and Plant Varieties Amendment Act 2012. The forces behind it.
It's commercial driven. It has nothing to do with African food security. It has nothing to do with what Kenyans need for now.
The monsters it has created.
Someone came and brought new varieties here, saying that it is certified.
That has happened a lot, and it's going to get worse with climate change.
And its impact on smallholder farming.
Unaenda tu kutafuta. Unatafuta mbegu, unaenda tu kwa madukani unanunua.
Talk of the potato seeds. Even up to now, I have registered in one of the companies so that I can access seed around August this year or September, which is not a guarantee. They told me this one is yes or no.
Kenya had a seed law in place even before it joined UPOV in 1999, a system that sets rules on the protection and use of new plant varieties. The Seed and Plant Varieties Act, Cap 326, was assented to in 1972, and its implementation was purely a government function through the Minister of Agriculture. It was amended several times, but the 2012 amendment hit the hardest, as Claire Nasike, an agroecologist from the Hummingbird Foundation, explains.
So when it was revised in 2012, it included certain punitive aspects. And it's important to state that the law came into place to sort of regulate the production, the certification, the marketing of seeds in Kenya, and also the protection of plant varieties. So this law largely protects plant breeders' rights.
In addition, it ceded control of the seed industry to the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services, allowing it to partner with the private sector on matters concerning seeds, such as testing. It also expanded the scope of protection to all plant genera and species. Previously, the Minister of Agriculture determined which plant varieties needed protection. The removal of Article 17, Part 4 of the Principal Law meant the minister could no longer consult with other stakeholders, including farmers, on matters related to seeds. It also criminalizes the sale of unindexed plant varieties, which in this case are farmer-managed or indigenous seed systems, an offense that attracts a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings or a jail term of not more than 2 years or both.
I think the first thing that needs to be done is just to have a law that recognizes farmer-managed seed systems, because farmer-managed seed systems are diverse. They cannot undergo the uniformity that the certified seed systems go through.
While the law seemed to uphold commercial interests, its timing and the support behind it raises even more questions.
I had a niggling question as to why it was that seed laws were being passed and seed laws were being changed.
Dr. Claire O'Grady-Walsh is an Irish author with a doctorate in politics and international relations. Her specialty is in globalization and seed sovereignty. Her extensive research, published in this book, titled Globalization and Seed Sovereignty in Sub-Saharan Africa, focuses on the seed laws in Kenya and Ethiopia. She writes that while Kenya and Ethiopia's seed laws were passed within months of each other, Ethiopia included measures to protect local farmers, while Kenya's law did not.
Because the questions that I asked were, who wrote the law? What were the motivations of the people who wrote the law? Who was consulted? It's not just about the seeds themselves, it's actually about the politics, because politics determines who gets what, where, when, and how.
In her book, Dr. Walsh gives a chronological account of the process that led to the Seeds and Plant Varieties Amendment Act of 2012. Two task forces were created separately by the government in 2005 and 2006. The first one was mandated to develop a new national seed policy document that would guide the review of sections of the Seed Law Cap 326. However, not much is known about its membership or its achievements. In April 2006, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, an NGO co-founded by the Bill and Melinda Gates and Rockefeller Foundations, opened its offices in Nairobi. According to Dr. Walsh, AGRA would play a big role in the seed sector through actively participating in policy change discussions and funding seed breeding initiatives through its program for Africa's seed systems. In the same year that AGRA set shop in Nairobi, Task Force 2 was formed with a specific role to revise sections of the Seed and Plant Varieties Amendment Act of 2002. It was made up of representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture, KEFIS, Plant Breeders Association of Kenya PBAK, and Seed Trade Association of Kenya STAC. Notably, it excluded representatives of farmers and civil society organizations.
It was purely transactional business. And of course, as you know, farmers are always put in their place as farmers. We are not equal with the experts. So we were not having equal grounds to discuss anything.
I picked it from 9th Parliament before I came to Parliament and came to 10th. So they were very, very aggressive. They were very systematic. They knew where they were going. Just like they did in stories about vaccines and so forth. It is very well calculated.
The Seed Trade Association of Kenya STAC was a key player in both task forces. During this time, according to Dr. Walsh, STAC acted on behalf of seed conglomerates including Syngenta and Monsanto and local companies such as the Kenya Seed Company. She notes that Task Force 2 met in Mombasa from 25th to 28th September 2006, where it made key proposals that were later enshrined in the Seed and Plants Varieties Amendment Act of 2012. But it went quiet as the country prepared for the 2007 general election. The disputed election that year and the violence that ensued led to the formation of a grand coalition government in 2008. William Ruto, now Kenya's 5th president, was appointed Minister of Agriculture. He reset the legislation process for the seed law in January 2009 by fast-tracking the passing of 2 subsidiary laws, namely the Seeds and Plant Varieties Regulations and the National Performance Trials Regulations, further aligning the law with the UPOV 91 Act. Of these 2 subsidiary legislations, Dr. Walsh writes, and I quote, "The state deepened the integrative process of seed certification without the rigors of a fuller parliamentary debate, yet managed to build judicial legitimacy while heading off potential political controversy and greatly reducing the possibility of judicial review in advance." End of quote. Former Naivasha Member of Parliament John Mutudho was the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture during this period.
I would say there's not a single minister who has worked in agriculture, including our president, who does not know the intel, who does not have the intel of what they wanted to do and what they did. And let me say and admit that I was never very popular with them, because I was not part of the cartel. And in fact, I was like a black sheep.
In October 2025, President Ruto came into sharp criticism for signing 8 bills into law at a time when Kenya was mourning the death of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Among them is one that will see the privatization of some parastatals, such as the Kenya Seed Company. Barely a month after ascending to power in September 2022, Ruto's government announced the lifting of a 10-year ban on genetically modified crops, a move that was blocked by the courts. Interestingly, in 2025, the government approved 3 genetically modified seed-made varieties developed by Calro in partnership with 2 multinational organizations and agrochemical giant Bayer. Mutudho alleges that there was intense lobbying for the seed law.
You are lobbying by word of mouth, they are lobbying by the checkbook. So if you lose, you lose. Actually, they did command, they didn't influence. They did command. I resisted strongly, I recall very well, I resisted strongly invites by those companies from US to have and deliver my members to their factories in Americas. I resisted strongly to anything that will annul the farmers' seeds in the current formation. There's no time when any of those multinationals came to face the committee, but there were people who would come, who have been briefed properly. And you can see they have been so well briefed. They have eaten so much that they cannot even fit in the cabin of their car. The stomach is too big. Mekula mingi. But the multinationals themselves never came head on, which we were really waiting. They never came to talk to us.
A cabinet reshuffle saw Ruto swap roles with Dr. Sally Kosgei, who was the then Minister of Higher Education. The promulgation of the new constitution in 2010 and the 2013 general election further catalyzed the passing of the seed law.
So the timing was critical, that particular time. So the Nusumukate knew, what they knew is that at that point in time, nobody's concentrating. Just like what we are now heading towards the 2027 elections. I can tell you, even if you said that a week has 80 days in Kenya, people will not even notice the 8. Hawatajua.
The bill, tabled before the 10th Parliament by Minister Dr. Sally Kosgei in November 2011, was passed within a year and without meaningful debate.
Most of the farmers were really shocked. They were really surprised, like something that they do on a daily basis was actually criminal. And what shocked them the most was that they could actually be jailed or paid a fine of 1 million shillings.
Plant variety protection is big business for plant breeders worldwide.
Usually it's something like 1 or 2% when they take it out or when it's given to them. Whenever the farmer pays the final price, a percentage is being given back to the company or back to the original breeder.
With their long-term financial gain backed by law, farmers find themselves caught in the murky world of market dynamics subject to demand and supply.
Sawa, nitawaongeleza. Bora msinilet down. Ukweli tu, madoka let down.
3 months after the planting season began, Nakuru-based farmer Onesmus Njuguna, who was looking for maize seeds in part 1, is still looking for potato seeds to plant on a 10-acre farm he leased together with a group of friends at Kukenik in Mount Narok.
Even up to now, I have registered in one of the companies so that I can access seed around August this year or September, which is not a guarantee. They told me this one is yes or no.
Njuguna prefers a variety called Shangi. His numerous visits to registered potato seed producers in Joro, Elbagon and Mount Narok seem to bear no fruit. I accompanied him to one of the suppliers and witnessed his frustration firsthand.
Na sasa akitaka kupanda August, that means a book size mbegu.
Na book size, lakini hiyo promise ama kugarantii ndio aweza. Hiyo inapaswa kufikiri.
Fresh service.
Kwa sababu kama ni kwa list ya wale farmers hii, najua niko nao kwa list ni zaidi ya
20,000.
So farmers wote na kuna farmer mmoja anataka 1,000 bucks.
Sasa hii ndio swali nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. How do you balance hustler mdogo na huyu mkubwa? Kwa nini msipeleke na rate?
Potatoes come second to maize in Kenya in terms of production and consumption. This year, the National Plant Variety Release Committee approved a total of 79 certified potato varieties to the market. 55 of these are owned by international companies operating in Kenya, such as Agrico UA, Danispo, and Greenville, among others. 16 are licensed to the Kenya Agriculture Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, 4 to public universities, while the rest are co-owned by foreign and national institutions. The Shangi potato, patented by KALRO, is the most popular variety in Kenya due to its high versatility and fast cooking qualities. But the cost of its seed is a different story.
If you want to you're a small-scale farmer, you want to buy potato seeds and you want to grow in your farm 1 acre, you need 16 bags of 50 kg, 16 bags. Each bag is not less than 5,000 shillings. So if you do your maths, you'll see that no small-scale farmer can afford that kind of money.
One of the companies, they tell you pay deposit half, then we see whether you will be one of the farmers who receive these seeds the next 3 or 4 months. So you book for seeds that are not even there.
Although Article 23, Section 1 of the Seed Law requires license holders to stock the market with propagating material at reasonable prices, Njuguna says this is not always the case with the Shangi variety.
If they have capacity, then that one can make sense to us. That such that any farmer can walk in, buy, it's available, go plant. But when it is not available, when I'm struggling to access it, in the process, I realize like there's something close to, let me not mention it this way, but no, I'll mention it, like a cartel. There are people who can access it very fast because they have cash, they booked very fast and such things. Those farmers who are working like on foot like us will remain hanging.
Hai, huyu amenichomea viazi. Huyu amenichomea viazi na dawa. Haya, hizi ndio tulipanda na nyinyi.
Meanwhile, in Kabazi, Lucy is already weeding her potatoes, which she planted for a different reason.
Ili nipate mbegu nyingi ya kupanda. Sasa ni kuzaliza tu, nakoza kuzikura, nakula kidogo, nabakiza zingine. Nakula kidogo, nabakiza zingine. Ili nipate kuzaliza mbegu. Sasa ndio hizi unaona nimepanda.
Unlike Njuguna, Lucy says she bought a pail of the Shangi seed potato equivalent to 20 kilograms at 1,000 shillings, about $8, from a farmer in the nearby Nyandarua County.
Na wewe unajua kuhusu sheria ya mbegu?
Sijui sana sheria ya mbegu, lakini najua sio vizuri kununua kwa mwenzangu ili asiniuzie mbegu mbaya.
Hapa nimekula viazi karibu wiki.
My grandmother, who we met in part 1 as she was planting the black Mexican bean, is gathering the last of her potato harvest from a traditional variety planted earlier in the year.
Hii ni viazi type gani?
Hii inaitwa daramwana.
Na kizungu?
Kwa kizungu sijui. Wanasema inakuanga haraka. Unaweza toa kama hapo vile hiyo iko, nitoe tu kama mbili kama hii. Hiyo nyingine ni mwache. Iendelee kukua. Sasa nitoe ya mtoto.
But it's not just about the cost of seeds. It's about the impact of the law on existence of farmer-managed seed systems.
We're not saying that certified seeds should be abolished in Kenya. All we're saying is let the farmers have a right to use their seeds. So let me as a farmer make the choice.
It is also about the emergence of a seed syndicate of sorts, hiding behind discovery and development of new plant varieties, threatening the existence of indigenous and openly pollinated seed varieties which have fed generations of Kenyans.
It's like when you say the first man to see Mount Kenya, to discover Mount Kenya was it Dr. Rudolph Kraft back in 1849, yet the Kambas, the Kikuyus, the Kirinyagas were living around Mount Kenya.
Critics argue that this is reflected every year on the National Crop Variety List. It contains hundreds of varieties of different types of crops, ranging from cash crops like tea and coffee, cereals like maize and sorghum, legumes like beans, different types of grass and potatoes, to vegetables like amaranth, commonly known as terere, and African nightshade or managu, known to grow in the wild, but are now registered to individuals and institutions.
And if people are challenged in that sense to say, like, what did you do to this particular vegetable? Which one did you cross with which one so that you came up with a new one? How many years did you take? And how many years have farmers taken? Thousands of years to keep on taking care of these vegetables and even selecting and eating some.
Some of these crops have retained patents for more than the 20 and 25-year protection period, while others lack descriptors as required by the law.
These people that are filling the forms and leaving some blank is theft, really. And you propose a new thing, you want it to be registered because at the end of the line you want to make money. But in the meantime, the rigorous process of giving all the details that are required of why is this a new variety, why should they be paid for the next 25 years to have this variety, being given intellectual property rights. That rigorous exercise is taken haphazardly.
Also included in the list are varieties alleged to have been taken from farmers only for the same farmers to be locked out and unable to access them.
Yes, that's actually possible in terms of the germplasm. So sometimes researchers or research institutions obtain the initial germplasm either from the farmers or from the gene banks.
And it's going to get worse with climate change. That yes, now we are opening up to a few new opportunity crops. And so scientists and even non-scientists, people with a commercial mind, will be going to communities and picking whatever it is.
We meet Francis Ngiri at his farm in Makongo village, Elementaita ward, Nakuru County. This is not the first time he's interacting with Njuguna.
Nakumbuka huyu.
Naona tumeonana. Ningejeza sikumbuki tulionana wapi.
Unlike Njuguna, Ngiri is an agroecologist and a champion for indigenous seed varieties. To Together with his group of farmers, Ngiri will assess the performance of 3 potato varieties, namely Mukurino, Deramwana, and Shangi.
9.8 A. Citizen science. And they are using a tool called CripMod. This process, we are looking for crops. Last year, for the last 3 years, up to last year, we were doing a characterization of some crops, and we found how they are behaving.
Citizen Science is an initiative by Seed Savers Network, a community-based organization headquartered in Elementaita Ward, Nakuru County. The organization's mission is to conserve agricultural biodiversity through strengthening community seed systems.
So we sit down with the farmers and say, for instance, there is a characteristic that says the leaf, you mark if the leaf is oval. Do you understand what oval is? If there is a character that you can understand, we say yes, then we can retain character. There is the color, maybe is a shade of blue. Do you understand what shade is? They say no. So then we are not going to retain that character.
According to the network's founder, Daniel Wanjama, this is the only way to retain indigenous seed varieties.
Now we have over 97,000 farmers as part of our members across the country, and a network of 112 community seed banks running all the way from Turkana, which is very north, to Lamu, Makueni, Embu, a lot of seed banks in the Western Kenya region.
The experiments are done without the use of synthetic inputs like fertilizer and pesticides. During this exercise, we learned that farmers in this village have had the Shangi variety with them long before it was released by Calro in 2015.
We are normally not keen on those new seeds which are coming, but the seeds which has been there are the ones which we are conserving. So we don't know the difference. We have not tested those new varieties of Shangi if there is another one, but the ones we have it here is what we call Shangi because it is the one we met it growing here, and it is the one we are preserving.
The government and the donor come in and say, oh, let's increase potato production. Farmers are liking Shangi, so they say, let's clean it, let's support it, let's use tissue culture and increase the certified seed for Shangi. So although it is a farmer's variety, and I think it's wrong for CARI or whoever is supporting this to register it as their own, they should recognize it as farmer's material, but multiply, clean it through tissue culture and give it back to the farmers because the idea is to support food security at the end of the day. So that is what may have happened.
I followed the process until now. I'm like, are they GMOs now? If what they are doing here is a real thing on ground. Because when you go to those companies that are producing the seeds, they really don't take you through the whole process, but they'll tell you this thing begins from a micro.
We put the question of whether or not the Shangi potato is a farmer variety to Calro in an email and letter sent to the organization. However, we did not receive any response. Public universities have also participated in the Scramble for seeds. In April 2024, Egerton University announced the commercialization of 18 out of 25 superior crop varieties in the Kenya-China Agricultural Lab project that began in 2019. These include 3 bean varieties, Chelalang, Tasha, and Sianku, already commercialized also in partnership with Kilimo Trust, a non-governmental organization. However, none of their special attributes are included in the National Crop Variety List of 2025 and that of 2024 as required.
Kilimo Trust agreed with us that...
In this video by Kilimo Trust, published on the 5th of April 2021, Professor Paul Kimurto, the head of the Egerton University Seed Unit, lauded the collaboration with local farmers. Francis Ngiri recalls a similar partnership between Egerton University and his group Makongo Farmers in 2015 before shifting to agroecology.
In the contract, they had said that they'll give us Chelelang varieties of beans, and then finger millets and chickpeas. But when they come to distribute, they told us now that Siankui beans is the best suited in our area. It is more resilient in dry areas. So they gave us Siankui variety, and we planted.
This document shows the group harvested slightly over 2,000 kilograms of the Sianku variety, attracting a payment of 236,768 shillings, approximately $2,000.
So it was the highest at that time. Even now, 113 beans is very high.
But then, according to Francis, a particular detail caught their attention.
To us farmers, we cannot say that it is a new variety because it looked like the one we knew before called Kifamu. It also grew like Kifamu. It also tasted like Kifamu. So it must be Kifamu, which was named again as Siankui. Okay, it has land and white strips. And that's how that Siankui bean looked like. If I put some Kefam beans inside Siankui, you cannot differentiate unless some very funny laboratory tests can reveal maybe or DNA, if the beans have DNA. But as our naked eyes, we found it was only Kefam.
I think it's a matter of funding, that when they receive funding, maybe they are not, whoever support them with this funding is not funding them so that they can support farmers in such ways. It is only like to register these varieties, commercialize them. Maybe they have commercial interest.
However, in a response to Africa Uncensored via email, Professor Paul Kimurto, head of Egerton University's Agroscience Park and Seed Unit, says the Sianku bean is not a traditional variety but Egerton's seed bred using parents obtained from the Pan-African Bean Research Alliance, PABRA. The fear of losing indigenous seed varieties goes beyond Nakuru County. In 2016, pastoralist communities in Baringo County were embroiled in a battle with Robert Murray, a rancher who has lived in the region since 1982, over his attempt to patent the African foxtail grass, commonly known as the buffel grass. To solve the matter, KEFIS held a meeting with Murray, the community, Calro, and Kerio Valley Development Authority, KVDA. Curiously, in 2021, it approved two buffelgrass varieties known as MGD1 and TVT3 registered to Calro.
But now there is a breeder's rights. So we don't know the variety that Calro has breeder's rights. How different is it from the one that the local pastoralists have been using?
The fear is now palpable in Turkana, Kenya's second largest county. Despite being arid and prone to drought, for many years, Turkana has been home for some superior varieties of sorghum. On a hot afternoon at Narusebo village in Turkana Central, Mary Ekwam prepares a meal of the Aleku Ekal sorghum variety for her family.
Mtama tu ni chakula ya kawaida kama ile chakula ingine. Unaweza kula mchana kama ile imechanganywa na kunde, halafu jioni unapika ugali.
There are many uses of sorghum among the Turkana people.
Siku ya harusi tunachaga mtama, ile mingi tunapika ugali. Tunakula saa ya nini? Ya harusi. Ile ingine hiyo tunachamusha. Tunakula.
Some varieties are also used as an alternative to sugarcane.
Kwa sababu kukula hiyo miwa unateremsha hiyo nini? Hiyo mtama. Alafu kukula hiyo ni mtama, alafu kule hiyo miwa na kunywa maji. Kwa sababu sukari hapa kwetu sio sana.
Unlike maize, this sorghum can grow with very little water, making it an ideal crop for the harsh conditions here.
Mtama bara ikimwaga maji mara ya kwanza, unapalilia, unaweka, hata manyunyu ya mvua peke yake, inafanya hiyo mtama inakuwa. Bora jua isiwe ile kali.
However, residents and the county government are concerned over the fate of the crop's germplasm collected by Egerton University during a joint agriculture project with the Food and Agriculture Organization between 2021 and 2024. The community's concern, as expressed by Aaron Nanok, the Director of Agriculture at the County Government of Turkana, is that they are yet to receive the patent for the plant material.
Up to date, we have not yet got the patents of that local genetic material. The Turkana will have the exclusive rights of owning the genetic material. That is the seed genetic material. That is basically from this place called Nadoto, because the samples were collected from Nadoto.
Mpaka saa zingine farmers huwa wanasema ya nini watu wengine hatujui wanatoka wapi kuja kuchukua mbegu yetu na hatujui penye wanapeleka ni wapi. Na watuletee majibu ya kuwa tumepeleka hii mtama, hii mbegu mahali fulani, tumefanyia utafiti fulani, tumerudisha hii utafiti ndio hii na hii 1 2 3. Hakuna.
However, in his email, Professor Kimurto denies any liability, claiming KEFIS rejected the variety based on low yields. In June 2004, Kenya signed the International Treaty on Plant and Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, also known as the Plant Treaty. This is a legally binding agreement under the Food and Agriculture Organization that upholds the equitable benefit sharing of all plant genetic resources and farmers' right to participate in national decision-making on conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources.
So we find that peasant rights within UNDROP, within the Plant Treaty, are recognized. And the traditional knowledge that also comes with the use of indigenous seeds are recognized in those two treaties.
However, this treaty was neither included nor mentioned during debates on the Seeds and Plant Varieties Amendment Bill of 2012. In fact, during its second reading on 15 August 2012, the then Minister Dr. Sally Kosgei only insisted on aligning the bill to the UPOV 91 Act, despite the fact that at that time, Kenya was only a party to the 1978 Act. This raises questions on whether proper procedure was followed and why the law was based on an act that had not been assented to in Kenya in the first place. While Mutudho claims to not have seen the bill, this Hansard report obtained from Mzalendo, a non-partisan parliamentary monitoring organization, shows that the bill was sent to his committee after the first reading. 7 members of parliament spoke in support of the amendments. They include Moses Wetangula, the current Speaker of the National Assembly, Robinson Jeru Githai, who was the Finance Minister, Peter Njuguna Gitau, Musa Sirma, Millie Odhiambo, Lucas Chepkitonyi, and surprisingly, John Jenga Mutudho, the man who was at the helm of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and who is now criticizing the act.
I would go by the Hansard records. I would go by Hansard records that I was present. In a committee situation, it's not a chairman's show. You have members and you debate and pass resolution. So the views usually in a committee, if the committee is run properly, is what they do. You don't have to agree with them entirely, but you are mandated to communicate their decision, and you start by that.
In fact, only Millie Odhiambo called for the protection of unique plant genetic resources at the time. The bill was passed during the third reading alongside the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service KEFIS bill. Within a span of about 2 weeks, the Seed and Plant Varieties Amendment Act of 2012 was effected on January 4, 2013. On page 147 of her book, Dr. Walsh writes about her interview with Dr. Victor Munyaka, former MP for Machakos Town and a former member of the Agriculture Committee, who confirmed that the committee met Monsanto in Washington, USA. He also highlighted that Monsanto was a major stakeholder in the amendment process as it controlled 20% of the hybrid seed sector in Kenya.
Were you among those who traveled to the US after the law was passed?
Let me put it this way, that we resisted, and then the parliament, we resisted many times, not once, not twice, not 10 times, to go to US and meet Monsanto. The group that met Monsanto were in 11th Parliament, and what went there is common knowledge. I would not have done it, and in fact, I wish I'd accepted to go for that invite so that I can know the motive early enough and then hit back.
10(4) C, D, E, F, and G of the Seed Act, Seed and Plant Varieties Act, is hereby declared unconstitutional for violating Articles 11.
Been vindicated by the court. And this goes to show that our country, we have leaders who have legislated policies that do not serve the interests of Kenyans.
But the real rhythm of this dance will be felt here on this half-acre plot in Kabazi, where Lucy Wanjiru, a casual laborer, struggles every year against all odds to grow food in a highly commercialized world.
Hii mahindi haikuweka vizuri vile nilipanda mbegu ya 6213. Na hii mbegu ya 6213 naipenda kwa sababu saa zingine inafanya vizuri. Lakini sasa hii haikufanya vizuri. Yaani mvua imekuwa mingi zaidi.
Or Njuguna, another small-scale farmer still learning to wallow in the murky dynamics of seed demand and supply.
This is a shangi that the few bags I got from fresh crop, trying our best to see whether tutapata kitu from within this piece of land.
In a few months' time, these two farmers will find themselves at the beginning of another planting cycle. After a 3-year fight, at last, farmers' voices shook the courtroom walls, and they can now share or sell their own seeds. Yet, even as the fields breathe again, a new storm gathers. The government is preparing to appeal the ruling as Senate debates new amendments to the Act. So the ultimate question lingers: who truly wins the battle for seed and food sovereignty in Kenya?
Do you have any regrets concerning maybe your tenure as a...
Yes, I do. What I knew then and what I know today is different. The assumptions there is that we have a system or a government that works.
Mm-hmm.
The reality today is that nothing works. So it would have, the why we make laws, just like we did the Mutudo law, is to make it smooth for those ones who would object to be protected by the judiciary. But you cannot